Hey there, folks. I am Jay McNeil, and this is my cat Lily in the background. That's good. I'm glad you can hear her. I'm getting uh, duplicate audio for myself, so I need to cut that out. Do it the old-fashioned way and close out the tab. All right. So this is the Be Doing Faith podcast. I've been away for a little while, or not away, pretty much right here working. But I wanted to show up and let you know what I've been working on. I'm not going to unpack everything all at once, but I do want to share the launch of a piece of this ministry, sister ministry to Be Doing Faith podcast. It is called the Faith Leader Directory. There is also Be Kind Humans. So I have these illustrations. Be Kind Humans. I should not be covering up the website at the bottom. It may be impossible to read. It's bekindhumans.com and the Faith Leader Directory. They are two sides of the same coin. But I think it is too complicated and would do an injustice to each to talk about them simultaneously. So we just want to talk about the Faith Leader Directory today. And the Faith Leader Directory is the more simple piece to comprehend. It is not more simple necessarily to think about its impact or the reasons why it has taken so long for something like this to exist. So if you want to go find a faith leader, it has previously been impossible to locate, say, all the faith leaders that are nearby within a particular radius, 10, 20, 50 miles. You might be able to find the Lutherans on a Lutheran website, or I don't know enough about the subcategories of other religions the same way I do Christianity, but any subcategory of Judaism or Buddhism, you can't just go to the internet and find all of them together. You have to go to each of their they hang out websites too. So you can find like their national association. So that has not seemed modern enough for what people are looking for, right? Because people don't move or go on vacation the way they did 60 years ago. And my parents are Lutheran, so I moved to a new town and I want to know where the Lutheran church is, because that's what I am and that's what I'm going to be forever. So where's the local Lutheran pastor? Like, that would be simple. But most of the time, people are moving to a new location and they want to know which faith communities are nearby, right? And then they're going to decide, as much based on the subcharacteristics as possibly the religion at large. And a Lutheran may be comfortable in a Methodist or Baptist or Presbyterian church as well, what we once referred to as mainstream Christian churches. But they continue to divide and divide and divide and divide, and now there are just so many. It's difficult to make distinctions. In fact, that was part of my college, was going up and down Main Street trying to figure out the differences by visiting. That's maybe its own podcast too. So I think that number one, people are also looking for people. It's the difference between postmodernists and modernists. Like, postmodernists are less supportive of institutions, less trusting, uh, less inclined to just sort of come on board and um, whatever town they live in, they don't just go join the Kiwanis Society or um, their denomination's church or anything like that. Um, I shouldn't say not anything like that because they're very supportive of community, secular, nonprofit organizations. They really like relationships in community. And that's part of why they're looking for individual faith leaders more than they're looking for faith communities. It's not to say people aren't looking for faith communities. People are looking for community, and they know churches are places where they experience or can experience community. They're just concerned about what comes with it very often for postmodernists, right? And it's also part of why the mentality of religious institutions is from a modern era, right? Like 40s, 50s, 60s, and then it started to come undone. Um, Today, people are much more interested in an individual's story, hearing from them, getting to know them, and discerning if they can trust that person and that person's story. Are they telling me the truth? Do they sound crazy? Does what they're saying, all of the pieces hang together logically, or are they contradicting themselves? Um, are they a safe person? Um, are they inclusive? Right, so these are all things that individual people of the recent generations, probably anybody under like my age, like I'm 51, and I sort of have a foot in the postmodern and modern generations. And that is in part because I feel like a postmodernist in a lot of ways because I spent most of my adult life in higher education. So I was in all these conversations um, continually with people younger than me, increasingly with people younger than me. And so there hasn't been a way for people to find individual faith leaders. And 10 years ago, this is where it started for me. Right? I created, it didn't exist. I went looking for it because I wanted to make myself available as a community chaplain. And I couldn't find a way to do that. And what I discovered is that people in the general public are looking for faith leaders of all traditions. Oftentimes, it does not matter what tradition, what religion at all. There might be some that they're scared of, but there are lots that they don't know about, and they're open to getting to know faith leaders, really of any tradition. Right? They want somebody who is educated, authorized, grounded, sane, reasonable, trustworthy, authentic, honest. I probably said honest in multiple ways. And so the person doesn't need to be perfect. They just need to be a real, not a fake person. So everyone, be yourself. So I went trying to make myself available. And when I had to I had to go find excited about lots of different reasons. But I've stuck with this because the truth remains that the general public is looking for faith leaders and faith communities. And faith leaders and faith communities have yet to put themselves out there in ways that the public is looking for them and willing to get to know them. One of the problems that faith leaders have with this way that people are looking for them that they don't understand. So if I ask a faith leader to offer, list themselves individually in a faith leader directory, put your profile out there next to other faith leaders. Okay? of your religion, of different religions, of different subcategories of the same religion, right? Um, Please just put yourself out there so that they can see you putting yourself out there, so that they have a chance to feel like they're getting to know you, that they can do some research, uh, so that they can begin to decide whether they might trust you, right? So before they're willing to go to your church, to your synagogue, to your mosque, um, they want a glimpse inside. Um, Maybe not of the building necessarily, possibly, right? But of you, right? And so the way that faith leaders have typically been on the internet, and they went begrudgingly, was to be on their church websites, right? So the church finally got a website, right? It took us 30 years to convince churches to get a website. And we eventually convinced them, all right, at least get a Facebook page. That's not quite a website, but it's something and you can manage it. Now churches have websites, and most of them have a Facebook page, especially because of the pandemic. And faith leaders feel like they're out there because they maybe, some of them, less than half of them, are on the staff at a faith community, house of worship. Yeah. So there's an About tab, and somewhere on the About tab is something like staff, or minister or ministers. And if you go to the staff page, the minister is one of the people listed on that page, and there might be a picture of the pastor, and there might be a paragraph. And there's probably a link to click on if you want to send an email. So in the era of social media, that's not much. And it's behind the institutional stuff that most people are trying to stay away from and are concerned about. And so if you are that many layers deep, then you've already lost. You've not demonstrated the courage to be vulnerable, to be experienced, to be human. It's kind of like them having to walk into the church and walk into your church office and sit down, like going to the principal. Even though most or many faith leaders are not very intimidating once you get to know them. But before you get to know them as a person and trust them, they are their title. They are all the education and judgment and hurt that has been affected upon other people. In most traditions, a lot of traditions work fairly hard to make sure that the clergy, the faith leaders, get a higher level of something, respect, right? There's a distance, literal or figurative, between the person sitting out in the pews and the person on the chancel, standing in the pulpit, standing at the lectern, discerning the word of God for the people. That is power. Many people's response is to vote with their feet and stay away. So the Faith Leader Directory is many things, but it is at the very least a psychic snapshot that faith leaders of all traditions of all stripes, of all sizes, on every spectrum. Love the public, love people enough to work together to care for them. The faith leaders love each other enough, respect each other enough to hold hands, probably figuratively. Um, but I've seen lots of hugs and a lot of laughter because people, faith leaders in every tradition, have already demonstrated some level of courage to give the understand God or the divine or the healthiest practice that they can, um, which might be humanism or some form of Buddhism. The, to be found together in one place, to be seen together in one place. I hope that it extends beyond just being in a website together where you don't necessarily meet each other, but at least the impression that you will give communities have a friendship that if something goes awry, if the furnace malfunctions and burns down the church in the middle of the night, or a pipe breaks and floods the church, that that the sister faith communities nearby already love each other and will already be prepared to raise a hand and extend help. My mind is thinking that it is at least as likely that somebody will graffiti the mosque or the synagogue, especially. In a congregation. The 60th anniversary of the bombing in Birmingham, where 4 young Black girls were killed in the women's room after the bomb that was set by the KKK. And things are not better today, and they are not moving in a better direction entirely. With some people, yes. With some people, the wrong direction. So fear is not irrational in 2023. And this is part of what drives me and why I've been working so hard to put these things out, the Faith Leader Directory and Be Kind Humans, is because I'm worried about 2024 in particular as we get there, as we live that year, and what may come afterwards. So I hope that we will start working together, living together, and I hope that being in one digital location is a first step. I don't think it can really be underestimated what that psychic snapshot could do to help change our perceptions and then the reality of whether and how much faith leaders work together, how much we know each other, how much we respect, love, and consider each other. So, whether you are a faith leader or not, know that faithleaderdirectory.com is where you can go for that resource. If you want to find a faith leader, if you want to find a faith community, it is there for you. If you are a faith leader or represent a faith community, then you can add and claim your own listing. I totally forgot that I was going to share this with you. So share. Screen. So this is what it looks like. All right. Okay. And so you can choose a category if you know that you're looking for a faith community or a faith leader. These will rotate. That is the top 4 categories, assuming that these 2 will always be the top 2. This might be in person or disability accessible categories or a language. Okay. So if you click into the search for, you can also find some of the categories or tags and choose them from here. So if you want to, okay, you could do that, or you can search by location, what's nearby for you. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and it is noticing I am in Columbus, Ohio. You can change some of the, oops, that was the wrong button. It just did a search without any limitation. So I'm going to go back to the home screen by clicking on the logo. I meant to click on this little settings button to show you that you can choose some of these details. And if you don't see your own religion, these are just ones that I put in very quickly. And like I said, I know more about the Christian structures, if you will, than others. But we can add and add and add and add and add. If you are adding a listing and you don't see your tradition there, you can use a tag instead of a category. Right. So you can also click on locations up here in the menu. Just want to show you what some of this looks like. Okay, so locations. I have put in, actually, you can see numbers down here. There are 33 faith communities that I have put in manually, and 2 other faith leaders plus myself. And so there's some subcategories. Like I said, I can keep tailoring the categories. It looks like I'm also going to change the color. Since there's green in the map, I'm going to change the color for the churches tab. But the faith communities, that is. So there's one here. There's one here, and the faith leader is also listed in Kansas City. And there's some others scattered around, but if you zoom in on Columbus, the ones that I put in are mostly in the Columbus area. So when there are a bunch in one area from the larger map, obviously it doesn't show you all of them individually. Okay. So what I want to point out at this point really is that anybody can add a listing. So like I said, I've put in all 33 of those congregations. Oops. So you have to sign in. And if you don't already have an account, you just create an account. All it is a log in. And then once you've logged in, if you click on add claim listing, you can come in here and add a listing for someplace. Even if it's not your church, even if it's not your religion, you could take an hour and put in, I don't know, 20 churches, 20 congregations. And then they will have, and of course you could pay for them, but I would suggest just using the free listing. Okay. Choosing the category. You put in the name, you can put in nothing here if you want initially. You can put in a tag, you can put in the location. That'll bring it up on the map. You can add a picture. You have to put in an email address, and then you can submit the listing. That will create a listing just like all of these other ones that we saw a moment ago. And I'll just do near here. It knows I didn't complete that listing. So the listing will be posted, unless you claim the listing, it will be posted with this button. And so if somebody else has posted your church, then you can come in here and claim the listing for your own church. Just want to point out that button. So the only reason it will be claimed is if you click claim listing. Okay. You say, I'm the owner, right? I'm the person that's authorized to do this on behalf of my faith community, or you might be adding your personal faith leader listing, okay? In which case, obviously, you can claim your own listing. Okay. And if people want to upgrade for more features, they can. They don't need to, but they can. So whether you're a faith leader or a faith community, the benefits or features increase with the price. For faith leaders, it's much, much less expensive. There's the free version, and then as low as $3. This is the only other thing. Okay, maximum benefits for anything $3 a month or higher. This is intentional. I hope that faith leaders that can afford to pay like $10 a month pay $10 a month. But I did not want this to be cost prohibitive to anybody, because the logic there is really because stop sharing. Like I said, most faith leaders are not in congregations, right? Half of the population of the United States does not have a faith leader or a faith community. So how do we support, we faith leaders like myself, support the 166 million Americans on their spiritual journey that do not have a faith leader or a faith community? To me, the answer is get all of the faith leaders that are not pastoring churches off the benches. Don't exclude the faith leaders who are pastoring congregations. But there are more faith leaders that are not pastoring congregations than faith leaders that are. Right? Congregations have typically been shrinking. Budgets have been shrinking for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. And so we visibly recognize fewer and fewer pastors because there are fewer of them walking around saying that they are pastors. But people who got trained and are either no longer pastoring congregations, are no longer on a church staff, or never were, are walking all around us doing lots of other jobs, right? I've worked at a lot of places. I've worked in a lot of churches, but mostly before I got ordained as a youth minister. And I've been ordained for 10 years, right? And I've been working in libraries, and I've been a chaplain, and I've been working for the last 3 years for an organ donation company, right? So I work with Lifeline of Ohio here in Ohio, and it's very meaningful work. And everybody register to be an organ donor. Organ tissue and eye save lives. But when I'm on the clock for my day job, I am not, I'm not a minister in that setting, right? But I can list myself in the faith leader directory if I am in good standing with my authorizing credentialing agencies, right? I am not in trouble. I have not been cast out, right? And so I can offer to do the things that I can do. Like I can help preach, I can help do pastoral care. It doesn't have to be in a congregation, right? I can provide pastoral care via the internet all across the country and the world. I can be a listening ear, right? I can offer prayers. I can help in person and online. I could help with retreats, right? I could lead worship at retreats. I could lead worship at retreats that are ministers' retreats, right? So I know when the ministers in our area, our chapter, our region get together, retreat, they want to have beginning and end of the day usually. But it's work when they want to be, like they're giving when they need to be receiving, right? If you're somebody who can provide worship online or show up at their retreat and take care of providing some sort of worship for them, that may be welcomed. So that all kinds of creative ways, right? People are authors and write materials. This also solves a riddle of pastors are typically generalists, right? If you work at a church, a lot of churches aren't big enough to have a big staff. And so you do everything, right? Like you fix the toilet, right? You just do everything and anything that needs to be done so that the church can function. And some of the people, a lot, without putting a number on it, right? Some people don't pastor congregations because there is something, either a trait that they have that is sort of their Achilles heel, right? And so they're not going to be a great fit for pastoring a congregation. They cannot do that thing, but do the things that they feel called to, right? Instead of being a generalist, they can be called to something specific and do that thing, maybe that one thing, right? Maybe there are 5 things that you feel called to doing. Maybe you're great at weddings and funerals. right? Do weddings and funerals and retreats because you're really good standing up and dealing with the public, right? Um, maybe the short-term basis is what works for you. You have some sort of anxiety or, um, displeasure working with people long term, or maybe it's the other way around. Um, maybe you're a musician and you can help lead worship. And like all of this stuff does not need to be done online. It can be done online, but it does not need to be done online, right? So even if you're a pastor, like, and you're looking for another job, right? Anything that can be done in person, it's just like using the phone book, right? You connect online and you make an appointment to meet, either to just plan more or see if it's a good fit or to do the thing, right? It might be a hospital visit. It might be a home visit. It might be a home blessing. Um, the ways to serve are endless. Your responsibility is to stay within the bounds of what you are trained and authorized to do. The Faith Leader Directory um, can help make that connection, right? If people are looking for a faith community, usually they're looking for one nearby, but it can also be they're looking for one not nearby because they know the ones nearby are not safe, right? Um, if I'm if I'm a minority sexual orientation or gender identity, maybe I'm polyamorous, my faith community I know um, is not going to be supportive, right? Um, then maybe you need to find people who are more safe. And that may mean being part of a community online that's farther away. Without going into detail, Be Kind Humans. I'm going to share my screen again. Right, so while I'm logged in, I can manage my profile, I can manage my account, right? And there's another menu down at the bottom that has lots more stuff. But right now, what I'm going to do is sneak over to Be Kind Humans, just to show you that it's here. So this is more of a gateway to an online digital universe. Okay. Whereas the Faith Leader Directory provides an exchange of data like email address, website, name, map location, address. You can't really interact, right? This is a static website to exchange just data. Like I said, that is not complicated to understand. Excuse me. This universe is harder to understand. It's a little bit like Facebook, but it's not social media. Right? It's a protected space. There are no trolls. Right? It's just not going to be that way. If people are not safe, kind, and inclusive, that's me, will kick them out, or some council or committee will. But this is to another space where you can interact with both fellow lay people, if you're a lay person in the general public, or you can interact with faith leaders. So this is about the faith leaders, right? And there's pricing. Well, Okay. So the price for the faith leader directory is here too, but just to get access as a faith leader, all these are the same package. You just pick your price. Okay. This just gets you access. You register, you get inside, you get access. If you're a faith leader and you have a ministry and you want a space to do your ministry that you can tailor, this is the pricing for that. And again, all three of these are the same product. You get to choose what you can afford. Okay. There's a pricing page. Okay. So the public don't get any kind of ministry space. They just have access memberships. Faith leaders and the faith communities have these other choices for between access and ministry space. This listing goes back to the faith leader directory. Okay. Just wanted to show you. Whoops, I hope you could actually see all that because I switched tabs. You probably couldn't. I don't know if you could see it or not. Let me see. Whoops. Nope, you couldn't see any of that. My bad. I thought it would open in the same tab and it opened in a new tab. So I'm switching to share this tab instead and apologizing. Okay, now you can see the right thing. So I'm just going to say that it's there. You heard what I said. If you go to the bottom, you can see a fuller menu. Okay. And you couldn't see everything that I was showing you, but down here is underneath Get Started in that right column. I was on this pricing page at the end. Okay. So public folks get access, faith leaders. It shows the faith leader listing over in the faith leader directory. They can choose just access, or they can also, and this includes access, get a ministry space that they can tailor. And the same thing is true for faith communities. They have the same choices. And when I was saying all three of these prices are the same package, this is the kind of thing I was just pointing at. Whether the faith community pays $10, $20, or $30 a month, these benefits are the same. Okay. That's not true for the faith leader directory. They get more features in the faith community if they pay more money. The faith leaders have a much lower cost. All these benefits for $10 a month, right? You don't have to buy a church. You don't have to rent out a hall or an office or anything like that. You have a digital world for $10 a month. Done. I don't know how long we've been talking, but it's been much longer than I expected it to be. Thanks for hanging out. That's episode 6. Almost all about the Faith Leader Directory. Okay. It's at faithleaderdirectory.com. Thanks. Have a good night. Good day. Good tomorrow. You're the bomb.